All right, we are back. Story number 2 in today's rundown is about Apple again. So, MacBook Pro got a refresh, and they instantly made my MacBook Pro look like a dinosaur. Again, thank you, Apple. Yes and no, they did. Everything's double
Yes
edged
and
today.
no. Yeah, yeah,
Yes and no, they did. So they announced the MacBook Pro. It's got a new feature called a Touch Bar, and it looks like a MacBook and a MacBook Air had an illicit affair, and then this thing popped out.
and there's a
This
tiny
is a
piece of an iPad, which is like the actual touch bar. That's how I
yeah.
see it, like a
That's what the
little
Touch
sliver
Bar
of an
is. Yeah.
iPad.
That's
Yo,
exactly what it is. In fact, if you
yeah.
read, you read through some of the reviews of it, that little touch bar. So for the folks that haven't seen it, the touch bar, if I'll bring up the screen while I'm talking. So the touch bar is basically they've taken away the function keys at the top of the Mac keyboard, and replaced it with a long strip of Retina display configurable hardware, right?
Yeah.
And they call it the touch bar. And what this thing allows you to do, here it is, I'll bring it up on the screen now.
It basically
So
morphs depending on which application you're
yeah,
using. It changes.
it's context sensitive. So
Yeah.
it will change depending on what app you're using, which I think is brilliant. It's great. Let's see if I can get rid of this audio. Here you go. Uh-oh. Oh, they're showing an ad. This is TechCrunch.
TechCrunch,
Yeah,
ExxonMobil.
yeah, there you go. Google Pixel just got a free ad on TWiP. But with the Pro, or with the Touch Bar on there, it's context sensual. So if context sensitive. So if you're doing video editing, it will change to be controls for video editing. If you're doing photo editing, you get your different sliders. I'm excited. I'm excited at the possibilities of what it can do, because say you're doing like a live stream from your computer, which I'm preparing to do. On the touch bar, you could theoretically have the different shots that you want to switch to, and just hit a quick button, much like a hotkey, and have it switch to that. So that's cool. They instantly made it, like I said, they made mine look outdated, because I have a MacBook Pro 13 that I just got a couple of years ago, or
Yeah.
less. Yeah, about a couple of years ago, and it's still great. I use it for everything. But now I kind of want this one. But then looking deeper, I don't want this one, because they did the whole port removal tap dance on this one that they did with the Airs, where they have basically, it's too minimal now. There's just like what, two or three ports. They've got a headphone jack on there, a
I
headphone
think four
microphone
ports.
jack,
It's kind of symmetrical. There are four
four USB 3 ports, which are also
USB-C
Thunderbolt.
or also Thunderbolt, but it's a USB-C type connection basically. So they look exactly the same. And if you have the right cable, that's the disclaimer. You can plug in whatever you want. You can plug in
Yeah, but
screens. You can plug
I
in
don't
like
want to do
RAIDs,
that
and
though. You know what? I don't want to do that. I don't. I mean, maybe I will eventually, but I kind
so
of like having SD reader.
Apple probably thinks that you don't know that you don't want to do that yet, but you
Yeah,
really want to do that.
yeah.
It's
You
like when
just
they removed, my iPhone audio jack,
yeah.
and that's
Do
like,
you miss that?
okay.
Do you miss the audio jack on your 7?
Yeah, kind of, because having the little white dongle every time to plug it in, and sometimes it doesn't work as I expected. The buttons on my headphones stop working. I have to unplug it, plug it back.
Well, just get new headphones. Don't they have Thunderbolt or Lightning headphones?
I don't want to have to charge my headphones. I
No,
want
not
my
the
headphones.
wireless ones. They don't have wired Lightning headphones that you can
Yeah,
just plug in there.
USB-C, but I use special headphones that I love. They're very
Oh,
geeky. They're
right.
the Etymotic. They're kind of like they go in ear, they cancel
Yeah,
noise.
yeah,
I live in
yeah,
New York; it's very noisy here, so
yeah,
I
yeah.
like
That
to
makes
go in the
sense.
subway and not hear crazy people screaming around me.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. I don't know, but the MacBook, like I said, it looks beautiful. I mean, you can guess what they did. Is it's thinner, it's lighter, it's faster than the previous one.
Yeah, it's a little faster,
It's a little
especially
faster.
if you use Apple stuff. There's also this thing, like I use my MacBook Pro to edit video a lot. And on my MacBook Air, I couldn't really do it. My iMac is very old, so my MacBook Pro is really good at editing video, but it's so much better at editing video using Final Cut instead of Premiere, for instance.
Really?
I subscribe to the whole bundle, but of Adobe, but my Final Cut is so much faster, especially with 4K clips. I load them and I can start editing, and if I can do color correction, and it still runs. On Premiere, it was kind of choking basically.
Interesting, because
I'm curious to
I
see.
have both. I have both. I've been using Premiere for the most part, but lately, thanks to Joseph Linaschke, host of TWiP Apps, he's been, both he and I worked at Apple around the same time. We had some overlap there,
Yeah.
and that's where I met Joseph. But he's been raving about Final Cut and telling me, and they just updated it. There's a new version out, and he's saying, yeah, you should
The new
be using
version,
that.
by the way, they called it just 10.3. It should have been like a new version of Final Cut. There's a lot of new stuff that is really interesting. Yeah.
We should do a show on that. We got to talk about that. So, yeah, and that's, I loaded it up and I cut a quick video in it, and I know how to use it. And I don't know. There's too many choices. Like, where's communism when you need it?
Yeah. You need to kind of pick one and stick with it. Yeah.
Digital communism. But yeah, so anyway, Apple MacBook Pro with the Touch Bar, that's cool. So definitely go check it out. It's a beautiful machine. The one thing I wanted to touch on with the Touch Bar is that it's actually running a flavor of Watch OS.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's a mini. Craig Federighi described it. He's one of the main guys at Apple. He described it as a computer within a computer. So it's essentially an iOS device that's been grafted onto your MacBook Pro that allows you to do all these cool things, which is kind of cool when you think about it, because it's a Retina display, just a strip of iOS device grafted onto your keyboard to allow you to do some cool things. So when I read that, I was like, that's really cool. And then I started thinking, well, how come I can't just plug in one of my other iOS devices and have that kind of control, that kind of contextual control on, a separate device? Right?
There are applications that allow you to do that in the music world. So if you're like a music producer or a composer, you can use your Mac laptop as your main sequencing machine, and you can have a companion iPad or iPad Pro, whatever, where you have additional controls to control maybe some music plugins or the transport of the timeline and things like that. And with your other hand, you can basically use another device.
Nice.
It's very geeky. Some of the stuff is actually made by Apple. I think they have an application called Logic, and they have a Logic remote companion for iPad that works really well.
I think that's what there's probably an app out there. You're right. There's for the software that I'm going to be using to do live streaming. It's called Wirecast. I talked about it in the last episode. It's called Wirecast. And what I would love to be able to do is, when you configure a show, I would love to be able to have an iPad sitting in front of me or off to the right or something, with just a grid of different shots with lower thirds, or here's a commercial that you want to run, or any, stuff like that I can just quickly glance over and hit the button and have it do the right thing. Even sound effects, just to be able to trigger things really quickly and do it there from an iPad while I'm sitting at my desktop. And then I want to replicate that experience with my MacBook Pro and my phone when I'm away from this computer and do exactly the same thing. I think that'd be really cool. But that's, I'll put that in a feature request and send it over.
Although the nimble traveler in me, like, everything that I do at home needs to work when I'm on the road. And I don't want to get used to, depend on, let's say I really love this thing, okay? And it's like, I cannot travel without this because, I'm not used to regular mouse or whatever. I don't want to have to carry too many accessories.
Yeah.
So I train myself to get used to stock things, and I don't want to have to carry too much stuff. I'm kind of lazy.
Well, speaking